Welcome to This Explainer. You know, a lot of people look at the modern financial system and just see a rigged trap, a maze designed to keep you confused and separated from your hard-earned cash. But what if we completely flip that perspective? The financial system isn't just a trap, it's a game. And like any game, it's got very specific underlying rules. If you don't know the rules, yeah, you're gonna get played. But if you actually take the time to learn them, you can play this game and win. I mean, I bet you felt this, right? That everyday financial frustration. Why does a quick $12 burrito suddenly turn into a $50 regret a few months later? And why does it feel like your bank account is literally losing its purchasing power while you're sound asleep? It's not just bad luck. It's the result of these invisible forces constantly working in the background of our lives. But here's the really good news. Once you understand these forces, you can actually control and harness them. So think of this explainer as your ultimate survival guide. We're breaking this massive topic down into 4 super digestible levels. Level 1, the base reality. Level 2, the intermediaries. Level 3, the invisible forces. And finally, Level 4, the cheat codes. All right, let's dive right into Level 1, the base reality. Before we can even think about hacking the system, we have to understand what money actually is. And honestly, the weirdest part about currency is that it's not actually real. Seriously, think about a dollar bill versus a stick. There's no fundamental law of nature that says a piece of green paper can buy you a coffee while a stick can't. The only difference is that money is a social construct. It's built entirely on shared belief and trust. We as a society just kind of agreed that the dollar bill has value. It's the exact same psychology behind why someone might happily pay 100 times more for a Gucci bag over a Target bag, even though they hold the exact same stuff. They perceive it as more valuable, so it is. Value is basically just a shared illusion that makes organizing our society a whole lot easier. Which brings us to the actual cost of that society. We've all looked at our paychecks, seen that missing chunk of money, and felt like some invisible force is just robbing us blind. But let's try a major reframe here. Think of taxes as the mandatory subscription fee for civilization. They're the literal reason you have paved roads to drive on, public schools, and crucially, health inspectors making sure your favorite late-night taco truck isn't totally infested with rats. Giving away your money is always a little painful, sure, but countries with higher tax rates generally enjoy a much higher overall quality of life. So let's quickly break down the flavors of this subscription fee. You've got income tax on the money you make, sales tax on what you spend, and capital gains tax on the money your investments make while you sleep. Then you have things like Social Security, which is basically the government forcing you to save for your own retirement, while Medicare supports older populations or folks with serious health issues. Now, I know the most frustrating part for a lot of us is that bizarre guessing game of filing taxes every year, right? Where the government already knows what you owe, but makes you guess anyway. It's maddening. But understanding where these buckets actually go really helps demystify the sting of payday. Moving right along to Level 2, the intermediaries. Now that we've covered what money is, we need to look at the institutions that actually manage it. And honestly, it's time to destroy a little childhood myth. When you hand a bank teller your cash, they don't walk it down to some giant, shiny vault guarded by a dragon where it just sits until you come back. Nope, that money goes right out the back door. See, banks are really just financial matchmakers. Through a system called fractional reserve banking, if you deposit, say, $1,000, the bank might keep just a fraction, like $100, on hand. They immediately turn around and lend the other $900 out to someone else who really wants to buy a jet ski. The bank makes its profit on the interest rate spread between what they charge the jet ski guy and the tiny, tiny amount they pay you for holding your money. Now, hearing that the bank is lending out your hard-earned cash to fund some stranger's weekend water sports might sound completely terrifying. Like, what if everyone wants their money back at the exact same time? Well, that is exactly where this $250,000 number comes into play. In the US, the FDIC insures your bank deposits up to this exact amount per person. That means no matter what happens to the bank's jet ski loans, the government is assuring you that your money is safe. So yes, it is exponentially safer to let the bank play matchmaker with your cash than to hide it in a shoebox under your bed. But here's the catch. Banks aren't just holding your money, they're actively judging you. Let's talk about the credit score. This is essentially a shadowy algorithm that decides your adult credibility. It's a 3-digit number that dictates whether you get a house, a car, or is slapped with the soul-crushing 27% interest rate. Honestly, it functions a lot like a pet dog. If you ignore it, it will poop all over your life. But if you take care of it, someday it might just help you buy a home. At its core, it's simply a lender's mathematical way of asking, if I give this person money, are they actually going to pay me back? Depending on your score, banks are going to view you in some very specific ways. If you're sitting below a 580, to a bank, you are a walking red flag. Most people sit in the average reality somewhere between 640 and 790, but get over 750, you are absolutely sparkling with adult credibility. Now, here is a massive misconception that trips so many people up. You can have absolutely zero debt, never borrow a dime in your life, and still have a trash credit score. Crazy, right? But why? Because you have no history. You actually have to play the game and use credit to look good to these lenders. So how exactly do we optimize this shadowy algorithm? Well, it boils down to a few key factors: your credit utilization, credit age, your mix of loans, and new credit applications. But the absolute undisputed king of this list? Payment history. Do you pay on time? The ultimate key to winning this specific game is simply making your required payments before you enter that late period. That is the golden rule of credit, period. Which brings us to level 3, the invisible forces. Consider this a bit of a warning. We are now entering the realm of the silent mechanics. These are the forces that will either quietly steal from you or multiply your wealth, all while you aren't looking. The first force is inflation. Have you ever bought a bag of chips, opened it up, realized it's half empty, and yet you somehow paid 30% more for it than you did last year? That, my friends, is inflation. It's the slow, quiet erosion of your money's value over time. Your $5 bill is still technically a $5 bill, but it buys less gas and way fewer instant noodles. This usually happens when everyone has cash and wants the exact same limited stuff. It's too much money chasing too few goods, and it just drives the price tag up. And when that inflation gets a little too hot, governments raise interest rates to cool down spending, which can trigger our next invisible force, recessions. Think of the economic cycle kind of like the timeline of a wild party. First, you have the boom phase. Everyone's dancing, the drinks are flowing. Then we hit the peak. The lights start to flicker, reality hits. Then comes the bust phase. Jobs vanish, people stop buying things they don't absolutely need, and suddenly the DJ is just playing sad lo-fi beats about corporate downsizing. But notice that last step, the reset. Recessions are undeniably painful, but they are not forever. They're just a natural reset before growth eventually resumes. Now, the most powerful, invisible force of all is undoubtedly interest. Basically, interest is money's way of charging rent to exist in someone else's hands, and it has a very distinct dual nature. When you're the one borrowing, interest is the literal price tag for using someone else's cash. It works against you. But when you are saving or investing, interest flips and becomes your ultimate reward for being patient. Let's look at how interest actually behaves in the wild. Simple interest is like a flat fee. It's like saying, here's $10, thanks for playing. But compound interest? Oh man, that is when every single dollar you owe or own gets clones. And then those clones also start demanding rent. If you owe 20% on a credit card and you miss a payment, your interest starts earning interest. That is exactly how that $12 burrito turns into a $50 regret. It's a financial fire. But on the flip side, earning compound interest, that's like a real-life cheat code where your money just duplicates itself. And that leads us perfectly into level 4, the cheat codes. Okay, so now that we know the rules and we've identified the invisible forces, how do we actually beat the system and use it to our absolute advantage? The ultimate hack against inflation and that slow erosion of your wealth is investing. Investing is what happens when your money stops sitting around getting eaten by inflation and actually starts actively working for you. Look, most of us trade our time directly for a paycheck. 1 hour equals 1 unit of pay. Investing totally breaks that cycle. It is trading your money for more money. And listen, the real danger here isn't the stock market occasionally dipping. The real guaranteed danger is never investing at all and just letting inflation quietly steal your future. So what are the actual vehicles you can use to do this? Well, it's not magic. You can buy stocks, which are really just tiny ownership slices of a company. You can buy bonds, which basically means you are the one loaning money out and collecting the interest. You can buy funds, which are just bundled collections of stocks and bonds, so you don't even have to pick and choose. Or real estate, where you're hoping someone else pays to live in a property that you own. Success with these cheat codes isn't about getting lucky or winning the lottery. It is entirely about being early, being heavily diversified, and being incredibly patient. Because to win this game, you really need to understand your absolute most valuable asset: time. As the old saying goes, wealth isn't built in days, it's built in decades. Time is literally the single greatest force in wealth building. Money that sits quietly in an investment multiplies slowly at first, but then wildly faster thanks to that compound interest we talked about. This is exactly how ordinary people with modest paychecks end up retiring with seven-figure realities. They didn't have some secret magic trick to beat the system. They just used the system consistently over a long period of time. So, as we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with one final, absolutely crucial question to think about. Who is collecting the interest in your life? Are you paying the system to finance a lifestyle today, letting your small mistakes turn into massive financial fires? Or are you the one acting like the bank, letting the system pay you, feeding your investments, and letting time multiply your wealth? The rules of the game are laid out right in front of you. Now it's completely up to you how you decide